At this time, I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call on members. We have Ms. Howerton, Mr. Brantley, Mr. Durrance, Dr. Brenda Longshore, Superintendent, Mr. John McClure, our board attorney, and Ms. Marlene Welborn, our board secretary. The character word, are we doing the character word? No, okay, I see that. And now we will have the recognitions for the FSA scores. Ms. Connor, come on down.
Good evening. So I saw all the parents here the other night for the secondary, and it was a challenge accepted. And now here they are. So this is so exciting. So I am going to call up the school representative and let them have the pleasure of handing their students the award, because I know they're so excited. And we'll start with Avon Elementary. And I believe we have the principal and assistant principal, Mrs. Cornell and Mrs. Culverhouse. So can you come on down?
We are very excited to be here. We are very thankful for all of the hard work that our students and families put into this great accomplishment. So thank you so much. Ms. Culverhouse, if you will read the names off.
Absolutely. Welcome and thank you for coming, families. We're going to start things off by recognizing Miss Kendall Romeo for a perfect score on her 3rd grade math. Okay. Next, we'd like to recognize Alniel Sanchez Montalvo for a perfect score on his 3rd grade math. Next, we have Adrian Randall earning a perfect score on his 4th grade math assessment. Next up, let's celebrate Alejandro Hernandez earning a perfect score on his 5th grade science assessment. Don't know that he was able to be with us tonight, but we will certainly celebrate him. And finally, we have Cassandra Torres earning a perfect score on her 5th grade science assessment. Thank you again.
Parents, I forgot to say, please come on up and take a picture. This is a special occasion. We don't want you to miss it. So our next school that is going to come up to present recognition would be Cracker Trail Elementary. So we ask Mr. Kogelschatz to come on down.
Super excited to be here tonight. I don't know what you did, Coach, but I tried to keep mine quiet this time. So I'm super excited to be here tonight to recognize our students who had perfect scores, and the parents as well that worked with them, and our staff as well who helped us get our school get an A last year. So we're super excited on that. So thank you, guys. First up, we have a third grader, now fourth grader, J.D. Scheipsmeyer, who scored a perfect score in math. Congratulations, JD. Next up, we have fourth grader, now fifth grader, Zayden Brooks, who had a perfect score in math. Congratulations, Zayden. Next up, current fifth grader, scored a perfect score in fourth grade math, Max Morton. Congratulations, Max. And last but not least, current sixth grader, and in fifth grade, he scored a perfect score in ELA and math, Garrett von Meervelt. Congratulations, Garrett, and thank you for being here tonight, parents. We appreciate it.
Excited to recognize this next student who happened to be at my school last year. So I'm going to ask for her teacher to come on down, Mr. Josh Miller.
I would like to congratulate for perfect score in third grade math, Miss Mika Painter.
So for our next school, I would like to ask Ms. Cheryl Vermelli to come on down to recognize the students at Sun and Lake Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. We are so excited to be celebrating all the student success here with you all tonight. So for our first recipient, I would like to call up Samantha Schellenkirk. She had a perfect score in third grade math. Her moment of glory. Don't want to ruin it. Our next recipient will be Braylon Hillman for a perfect score in fourth grade math. I need to get some student autographs, obviously, because they're going to do wonderful things. Now we have Mr. Caleb Jones, perfect score, fourth grade math. Now we'd like to recognize Sydney Valentine, perfect score, fourth grade math. And he was ready, very efficient. I love him. He is just like his daddy. And we would also like to recognize who's now a sixth grader, David Hermoso, perfect scores in fifth grade math and fifth grade science. Thank you all so much.
And our last school to present, but certainly not least, is Woodlawn Elementary, and we have Mr. Wright and company. Come on down, Mr. Spencer, come on down.
All right, Mr. Wright and I are so excited to celebrate our Soaring Eagles, but I also would be remiss if I did not give a shout out to our teachers that are represented, those classroom teachers that are here to celebrate their students, and also the families, all of you that are here to celebrate your students here, because it takes the whole tribe. And we just thank you for being part of the village. So it gives me great pleasure to start with Mr. Keon Nsinko, and he got a perfect score on the third grade math test. All right. Also getting a perfect score on their third grade mathematics assessment, Mr. Bowen Rapp. That's right. You got it.
Right, leader.
All right, and last but certainly not least, scoring a perfect score on her fourth grade mathematics assessment, Miss Callie King.
So I have to echo what Mr. Spencer said. That was so much fun. Thank you so much, parents and teachers and administrators that came out so we could recognize those students. After everything that they've been through, they still shine, and I'm so glad they came. Thank you. You guys have a good evening, and we appreciate everyone.
Just while you're leaving, I'd just like to let you know that if you go to the School Board of Highlands County Facebook page, you can also get pictures off of that he was taking tonight.
I think he had it was a sister and a.
No.
No, maybe not. I thought his sister was.
You want me to take it for you, Bobby? You want me to take the picture? Okay. I'm not surprised.
Mine this year. He was mine last year. Do it again. He's got to do it again. He's got to do a repeat, right? No pressure. He's got it. He's got it. All right. All right, you got me first.
Smart.
All right. Great. You want one just for mom? You want one just for mom? You want one for mom? Together. While we're up here, now come on, get one on your own end. Ready? We'll send that.
Celebrate the moment.
Okay. All right, good together. All right, bye. I will see you. I sent a note. Oh. There's a note, and it has the time. Ready? Wait, I get one with this. Sorry, I'm always talking. What? I'm always talking.
At this time, I'd like to call on Ms. McClure to introduce our next presentation.
Certainly, I'm deeply honored to do this. Several meetings ago, we discussed the potential participation of the school board, or our school district, in litigation against the manufacturers of the e-cigarettes, the Juul litigation, Juul. And you asked me to research various counsel that could represent us, and I did so. I'm very honored to be able to say that the Steve Mayer law firm, we felt, would best represent our small district, and does a great job. He's participating, as he'll tell you soon, in nationwide litigation with this. The firm made a presentation to the Florida School Board Attorneys Association, and it was very impressive. And so we've asked Mr. Mayer to come tonight to present to the board. And Mr. Mayor, if you'd step up, please. This is Mr. Steve Mayer, and I'm very pleased to let you know he's extremely qualified, and I think he'll do a great job in representing the district. I would say more about him, but he said let him tell you more about him, so I'll let him do that.
Thank you, Mr. McClure, and thank you, board members, for having me here tonight. Seeing these young people getting the awards tonight makes me realize how important the investment in our young kids, our children, are to our communities, to our future. And my firm represented back in the 1990s the state of Florida in the tobacco litigation. Some of you may be old enough to remember that. And that was one of the very first cases that were filed in the country against the cigarette manufacturers to hold them accountable for what they have done to this planet over the past 70 years. And as a result of the case that we filed in the 1990s against the tobacco industry, the tobacco industry had to pay the state of Florida $11.3 billion, which went into the coffers of the state, but also was used in order to really educate people about the dangers of smoking, educate kids to the dangers of smoking, and it really worked. Because what we saw, unlike when I was in high school in the 1970s, and I'm born and raised in Florida, but my public school had a smoking section. We were allowed to smoke at our school, and the teachers didn't care. We were allowed to do that. Everybody smoked back then. But as a result of that litigation, we saw the tobacco use, cigarette use amongst kids, amongst teenagers, drop to single digits. And that was great because it not only became uncool to smoke, but it really helped with health. Up until 2015, when Juul came on the scene, it all came back. Everything that we undid back in the late 90s, in the early 2000s, it's back up there again. These kids are Juuling. These kids, and the Juul manufacturers say that it is healthier, but it is not. Yes, there is no nicotine, I'm sorry, not nicotine, but tar in the e-cigarettes, but there are 15,000 untested chemicals in there that we don't know what's going to happen. So I have a short presentation. It's a video presentation with the board's permission if they would like to see it, and I don't know if the public would like to see it. Would that be okay? Okay, thank you.
It took decades of pop culture manipulation to convince Americans that cigarettes were cool. But in the past 25 years, our society learned the ugly truth.
Make a video of yourself before all this happens.
As a result, teenage cigarette smoking plummeted from 29% of 12th graders in 1976 to just 3.6% in 2017. That is, until Juul, the e-cigarette company that intentionally set out to make smoking great again among teenagers by targeting high school and middle school students where they live on social media. Juul Juul rolled out a massive social media marketing campaign featuring young, attractive models, doing everything it could to make vaping appear trend-setting and stylish to young consumers. The e-cigarette giant posted Juuling celebrities on its Juul Vapor Instagram and Facebook page. Juul threw vapor launch parties for young people, complete with Juul starter kit giveaways. Juul's hip young models lit up Times Square. And Juul paid social media influencers to promote their products to thousands of teenage followers.
Really solid taste.
Just like Big Tobacco, Juul normalized nicotine usage and downplayed the health risks. And Juul made its vapor taste good using flavor additives like mint, fruit, and creme brulee. And Juul purposely designed its devices and pods to look just like USB drives, something almost every high school and middle school student carries in their backpack.
It's really easy to hide, it's really easy to use.
Juul copied the tobacco industry's playbook, and founder James Monsies has admitted they were able to catch up to the tobacco industry in no time. And in order to addict a new generation of non-smokers, Juul added organic acids to reduce nicotine's harshness. And while other e-cigarette companies were signing settlement agreements promising they would not market to kids, Juul refused to sign. Unfortunately, Juul's well-thought-out plan to addict an entire generation of youth to nicotine worked. E-cigarette use has skyrocketed among high school students, up 78% from 2017 to 2018. Not surprisingly, Big Tobacco took notice of Juul's success in the teen market. Altria, the makers of Marlboro, invested $12 billion in Juul for a 35% stake in the company. Juul's patented nicotine salts are one of the most dangerous and highly addictive products on the market. One Juul pod contains 5% nicotine, the same amount in 2 packs of cigarettes. Engineer Ari Atkins, who helped develop Juul's devices and pods, admits Juul wasn't thinking about addiction, and they weren't trying to design a cessation product at all. Anything about health was not on their mind, leaving thousands of kids to learn about Juul's devastating health consequences the hard way.
It ended up becoming my oxygen. I couldn't live without it. I needed it all the time.
Former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb blames Juul and its youth-focused marketing campaigns for the problem that has grown into a national health crisis.
The FDA slamming popular e-cigarette maker Juul for marketing directly to students.
Juul spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to fund youth programming.
2 teenagers testified that a Juul representative came to their school to give an anti-vaping presentation. And when their teacher left the room, they say the representative repeatedly claimed that Juul was safe to use.
The U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Reform found that Juul deployed a sophisticated program to enter schools and convey its message directly to teenagers and children as young as 8 years old in summer camps and public out-of-school programs. And Juul recruited thousands of online influencers to market to teens. The National Federation of State High School Associations has deemed Juul the biggest contributor to the vaping problem in schools. It's a problem of epic proportions, leading to more than 2,000 vaping-related lung injuries and dozens of deaths.
It took 2 days for my lungs to fail, and I almost died.
And while middle school and high school students are paying the ultimate price, America's schools are suffering steep financial consequences.
It's a nationwide problem. In Texas, some schools make kids roll up their long sleeves so they can't hide the devices. In Fairbury, Nebraska, they are randomly testing students in extracurricular activities for nicotine. There are vape sensors in Illinois and New Jersey bathrooms.
One Alabama high school taking extreme measures after a student was found passed out in the bathroom after vaping. The principal removing doors off stalls in the boys' bathroom.
Juuling in the classroom has become a major distraction for students, teachers, and administrators.
Vaping, especially with the Juul device, is very easy to do even in the classroom where you can bend over, suck it out of the USB port, put it back, and no one may know.
Teens and even preteens are sharing ways to hide their Juuls from school officials online.
You can fit your Juul or any kind of pod device will easily fit in there.
In the tie, if you open up this part here, there's a little kind of like a little pocket here, so you slide your vape up.
School bathrooms have become jewel rooms, forcing teachers to spend valuable time looking for vaping students. School districts are tapping into scarce education resources, coughing up hundreds of thousands of dollars to pay for vaping detectors and monitoring devices, removing bathroom doors, buying kits to test the contents of confiscated Juul devices. School districts are funding anti-vaping assemblies.
So they're trying to get you guys addicted with vaping.
They are footing the bill for prevention programs and counseling.
Everyone at my school, Juul, was in it.
Schools are even shelling out money for tutors for suspended students. Many school administrators fear the cost to combat the Juul epidemic will only increase in the future. But now school districts are fighting back, hitting Juul where it hurts, in its billion-dollar pocketbook, by joining a multi-jurisdictional lawsuit filed on behalf of school districts across the country to make Juul pay for what it's done.
This morning, e-cigarette giant Juul hit with 3 separate lawsuits over what critics are calling the teen vaping epidemic. The suits filed by 3 public school districts in Kansas, New York, and Missouri. The Missouri suit accusing Juul of addicting a generation of youth to nicotine. And in Kansas, attorneys argue Juul utilized social media extensively, knowing full well that teenagers are the primary users.
The Arizona School Boards Association, which makes up 223 school districts and represents more than 1 million students, recently passed a resolution in support of the litigation. Now, Arizona's largest school districts are coming on board, among them Tolleson Union High School District and Tucson Unified School District, the second largest in Arizona, with nearly 48,000 students.
Confiscating product, calling parents, taking teachers out of classrooms to fill out witness statements, searching backpacks, suspending students, routing students to social workers for tobacco prevention programs. I mean, I can go on and on and on.
In just the past few weeks, dozens of school districts have voted to join the litigation in Pennsylvania, New York, West Virginia, Missouri, Kansas, Arizona, Florida, and California. Some of the very largest districts in the nation, including Palm Beach County, Florida, San Francisco, and Louisville, Kentucky. Others are joining the fight almost daily. Wagstaff and Cartmel, a law firm with a proven success record in mass tort litigation against dangerous drug makers and defective medical devices, and the Mayer Law Firm, a Winter Park, Florida firm with a long history of battling big tobacco. They represented the state of Florida in its historic lawsuit against the tobacco industry in the 1990s, resulting in an $11.3 billion settlement on behalf of the state, are fighting Juul by applying the same public nuisance law used to combat opioid manufacturers. The law allows school districts to hold companies responsible for the damage they cause to society.
E-cigarette companies should be forced to pay for the damage that they've purposefully caused. It's the same way opioid companies are being forced to pay for the work they've done that caused people to be addicted.
Under the public nuisance litigation model, Juul will be held responsible for past and future expenses for schools dealing with use on campus, injunction relief, requiring Juul to take steps to combat teen use, and punitive damages, steep financial penalties to punish Juul for their conduct, deter future conduct, and show the company their business model, built on the backs of minors, is not financially feasible. There is no risk for school districts. They will not have to pay anything up front. The law firms involved will front all expenses in this litigation. School districts would only be required to pay expenses if the law firms obtain recovery on the school district's behalf, and if the action is not successful, no legal fees are owed. We cannot undo the irreparable harm Juul has done to our kids, but school districts can take a stand to make Juul's vapor disappear from our schools for good.
Thank you. That kind of sums up what the case is about, how we could help the school district, your school district. We represent, when I say we, Wagstaff and Cartmel is a firm that Mr. McClure met John Kiefer, a partner there, at a meeting in Orlando where we all met. And we gave a presentation that John was telling us about earlier. But Wagstaff and Cartmel is a firm based in Kansas City, Missouri. My firm is based in Winter Park, Florida, Orlando. I have known the folks at the Wagstaff and Cartmel firm for many, many years. We've worked on many cases, opioid cases, a lot of pharmaceutical cases around the country over the past decade, over probably close to 15 years. And we are partnered up on the Jewel litigation as well. But John Kiefer could not make it here tonight. He wanted to. He is in San Francisco taking depositions, expert witness depositions in this case. But what I'd like to do is briefly kind of let you know where we are in the litigation, what it is, and where you all could fall into this. We filed this case over a year and a half ago, and there are two types of courts in the United States. There's state courts, which we all know, Florida state courts, and then there are federal courts, United States district courts. Federal courts are in every single state. There have been a number of lawsuits filed, not only on behalf of school districts, but also personal injury lawsuits from kids that have been injured as a result of the Jewel. The federal court system, instead of having 100 different judges around the country working on basically the same case, the federal court administrative system said, you know something, we are going to create what's known as a multi-district litigation, an MDL, multi-district litigation, because all of the federal courts the separate federal courts around the country are called district courts. So what the federal court system said was, in order to have judicial economy, we are going to take all of the cases that have been filed in federal court around the country, and we're going to put them in one courtroom before one judge. And that judge is Judge Orrick, who's a federal judge in San Francisco. And so all of the cases in the country are now before Judge Orrick, okay? We represent a number of school districts around the country. In Florida, we represent Palm Beach County, Orange County, Hillsborough, Seminole, Pinellas, Brevard, Lee, and Gilchrist County. They are all before Judge Orrick. What happens is all of the cases are consolidated for purposes of discovery, depositions, expert witness discovery, things like that, preparation for trial. And what typically happens in these multi-district litigations is that the judge, the MDL judge, decides to try a few cases, him or herself, at the beginning, okay? Right as soon as cases are ready for trial. Judge Orrick has decided to try a number of these cases. They're called bellwether trials. Bellwether trials are called that because they are a bellwether to the parties. The parties, both the plaintiffs and Jewel. They kind of see, you do some test trials. They're real trials, but they're the beginning of the trial system. So we see what happens. And then both sides, the plaintiffs and the defense, kind of get a little bit more feel for how a jury is apt to react in their case. And so what we have right now is we have a number of bellwether trials that are set, that are going to be tried in San Francisco in the first part of next year. And then the bellwether trials for the governmental entities, which are the school districts, will be tried next fall and in December. There are 4 school districts that part of this bellwether trial system. The first is the Palm Beach County School Board, which is the biggest, one of the biggest. It's the 10th biggest in the country, but it's probably one of the biggest in the multi-district litigation. And then you have San Francisco Unified School District, and then a school district from Nebraska and one from Arizona. Our group, Wagstaff and Cartmel and the Mayer Law Firm, we represent all 4 of those bellwethers. Why is that important? Well, it's important because our group has been on the front lines of getting these cases ready for trial. And that's important because the Jewel knows who we are, okay? Because our group is working with them on a day-by-day basis. Ultimately, we're hopeful that there will be a settlement of the entire litigation after some of these bellwether trials are tried, because typically that's what happens in multi-district litigation. So, how can Highlands County School Board fit into this? Well, first of all, it's a pretty good time to get involved at this point. If you would have gotten involved a year and a half ago or a year ago, you may have been up for being one of those bellwether trials, being one of those trials that were going to be tried first. And that's a lot more effort, a lot more work for you all, for the district, than if you kind of get involved and kind of take a, let's just see what happens. And what a lot of the questions that I have are, and I'm sure you probably are asking, what would this, how much of a time effort, a time commitment this would take for, your administrators, your staff and everything. The answer to that at this point, and like I said, it's a good time because you're not going to be a bellwether. You can kind of just see what happens. What it would require some effort, okay? But basically what it would be is there's an 18-page document that has been negotiated by the plaintiff's side and Jewel and approved by the judge, Judge Orrick. And it's called a plaintiff's fact sheet. And it's a number of written questions that need to be answered with our help. But we will need some help from you all. I'm not going to say this you just sign off and you don't do anything. You have to do that. But we will work with you on that and help prepare that with you. But other than that, are there going to be depositions? Is there going to be a trial? Well, I don't know if I can't tell you there won't be, but I can tell you it's not going to be in the near future because of the fact that we've already got the bellwethers set. They're ready to go. We're basically trial ready right now. Like I said, John Kiefer, my partner firm, is taking depositions, expert depositions right now. They're almost done. And we have about 25 expert witnesses on the plaintiff's side. And John Kiefer and Tom Cartmel, his partner at Wagstaff and Cartmel, are going to be trying the very first personal injury bellwether trial. They've been asked to do that because they are on leadership of this multi-district litigation. And again, that's very important for a settlement negotiation perspective because ultimately we hope that everything's going to be settled. And you want, districts really want people that are involved in leadership of the MDL to represent them because they have the most leverage as far as settlement goes. Let me just give you a little bit of fact and then I'll open it up for any questions that you guys have that I can answer. There are 337 school districts in this litigation. There are, our group represents over half of them, represents 176. The first personal injury bellwether trial is going to be next April. The second personal injury bellwether trial is going to be next June. And the first school district litigation or bellwether trial will be in September, and the second one will be in November. So we're going to know a lot more as all this progresses. Let's see. There's strength in numbers. It's a good time to get involved. We work on a contingency fee basis. We don't get paid unless we make a recovery for the district, and if we do, it's a 25% contingency fee. If we don't make a recovery, you don't owe us anything. There are litigation costs that are involved. There will be costs to get, first of all, there's a filing fee of about $550, I believe is the latest in federal court, and a number of other things. The good thing is, a lot of those costs are going to be, diluted because they're going to be shared by all of these governmental entities and school boards that are involved in the litigation too. So on top of the 25% contingency fee, we're going to want to get paid back the money that we take out of our pockets to prosecute the case, the actual costs. But if we don't recover anything, we will not even ask you to give that back. So if I'm, Mr. McClure, if I have anything that I've left out that you would like, or any of the members of the board, I'm happy to try to answer those.
Will you be reaching out to other districts, school districts, to join this work?
Yes, and we have, and we're in discussions with some of them. Some, it's interesting, some places, they would just rather not even deal with it. And I don't see a downside. But yes, I anticipate, as this gets more and more, as COVID, recedes a little bit, and we get to focus on what's happening, and the kids get back to school and all of that, we're going to see a lot more of this. And I think that a lot of school districts are going to jump on the bandwagon, if you will, at some point. There's only I believe 10 districts in the state of Florida that have actually done it at this point. So you guys are kind of in the forefront of this.
I would note, though, of those 10, you named 7 or 8 already that
Yes,
your
sir.
firm represents.
Yes, sir, we represent most of them, including the most important one as far as the whole litigation, the bellwether, Palm Beach County.
And we have, there's been a lot of discussion at the school board attorney conferences. Some of the larger districts, like Miami-Dade, have engaged their own counsel that they typically work with. And so that's just the way it goes. There's no single firm that's ever going to represent everybody in the whole thing. I think what Mr. Mayor is offering, which is no cost, no risk really to the district at all, in return for something that could be a large recovery that would really help us in our fight against tobacco and the dangers our kids face. I thought the video really depicted it well. They glorify the usage, and in fact, what you're doing is killing our kids off. So even if we never saw a penny, it's worth that fight, in my opinion.
The report that you mentioned or something, would each school have to do this, or how does that?
No. It is to the district. It will be, the district would have to do that 18-page
Okay.
list of questions. And I can get a copy of it to Mr. McClure
Yeah, I
to
wouldn't mind
circulate it to you all as well. I'm sorry that I didn't think to do that
No,
before,
that's
but I
okay.
will. But it would be, typically what we've been doing is working with the general counsel of the school district, and then they provide us with the liaison with the administration to answer those questions.
So you said as far as litigation costs plus 25%, as far as litigation costs, does that include hourly fees for?
Oh, no.
So the hourly fees for the attorneys and paralegals is covered under 25%, or is that fees on top of?
No, we do not get, I've been doing this for 34 years.
When-
I've never charged by the hour. It's all contingency fee. The costs that we're talking about are out-of-pocket costs, such as filing the lawsuit, the fee, depositions specific to this case, court reporters' fees,
Okay.
expert witnesses if
Not
we were to go
in-house.
to trial.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's definitely a problem.
Absolutely. Oh,
It
there's no doubt about it.
I hear that from a lot of our secondary schools, and
And they can't even, they don't even realize they're doing it until they smell it, and then it's put away, and it's too late, because it's such a small container.
be willing to definitely look into it, if it's going to be something that we're going to.
I would note that later on tonight, it is an action agenda item. So if the board, if you feel like you're not prepared yet to vote on it, you could postpone it to another meeting. If you feel like you're ready to vote, then we can leave it on the agenda. That's really up to you. So. Mr. Mayor he was kind enough to drive down here and give this presentation. He's a very busy fellow. I'm sure you figured that out as
Yes.
he talked. And he'll be driving back immediately after this presentation.
Watching the media the other day, I saw where, like one cartridge I did not realize is actually like smoking a whole pack of cigarettes. So it's just amazing what our kids are, or we're allowing our kids to get addicted to, which we don't want to do.
You know, it's tough enough to raise kids as it is, and this comes on. It is really the only thing that a large corporation, they're unfeeling, they're not natural people, they're a fiction. The only thing that will get their attention is a lawsuit. And it's a shame to say, but that is true. And so if anybody doesn't, unless anybody has any other questions, I'm finished.
No, I'd like to thank you so much,
Yeah.
and we appreciate your time. And to me, it's kind of amazing with all the anti-smoking information out there that this has gone on for as long as it has without something like this happening. And so we appreciate everything you're doing, and safe travels back.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking your time to come, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you. Drive safe.
Moving on, we have school board committee reports. Anybody? No? Okay. Presentations of petitions. We will start with Mr.
Before we
Yes,
begin
sir.
that, could I have a couple of quick comments?
You can have anything you want, Mr.
Okay.
Clerk.
Well, we have a lot of people here tonight, and a lot of people want to be heard, and I understand that. That's why it's a public body, and that's why you're here. I would just say a couple things. Number one, rather than all members that want to say the same thing get up and talk for 5 minutes saying the same thing, if you had some representative folks, or the guy in front of you or the lady in front of you said just what you want to say, just come up and say, me too, or whatever you want to do, okay? I understand that. But that just helps facilitate the public meeting to properly proceed. The other thing is attendees who want to make a presentation need to register on one of those little cards, okay? So if you do intend to speak and you haven't yet turned in a card, that needs to be done. So just giving you a heads up about that too. Finally, the last thing I would say is this is a time for public comment, okay? It is not a time for public questioning. So if you have comments, you make your comments, but do not expect the board to answer any questions posed to them at this meeting, okay? And I would admonish the members of the board to make sure that you don't respond to anything, because who knows what the future would bring. So we'll leave it like that. You wouldn't want to be disqualified. So, okay? So with that said, if you could proceed.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Oberfield, yours is first, and I'll remind you, please come to the podium and state your name. And you have 5 minutes.
Marlene told me I could have 6. Larry Overfield, concerned citizen, property owner, taxpayer, non-smoker, non-vapor. Okay, lately we have seen in the news that parents are being classified as domestic terrorists. I'm glad you're all here. The Attorney General, Merrick Garland, directed Department of Justice and the FBI to, and I quote, launch inquiries into the rise of criminal conduct directed towards school personnel. By the way, I just want to let you know that according to the news, A.G. Garland's son-in-law, Zan Tanner, is the former founder of Panorama Education, a company whose material is used in our school district. This company works with school boards to promote a culturally responsive training and other ideas associated with critical race theory. This accusation of parents acting as domestic terrorists is mined from a letter sent to President Joe Biden by the National School Boards Association. Quoting from this letter, the NSBA believes immediate assistance is required to protect our students, school board members, and educators who are susceptible to acts of violence affecting interstate commerce because of threats to their districts, families, and personal safety. They go on to state they would like the Postal Service to monitor our mail. NSBA also requests that the following acts be in use: Gun-Free School Zones Act, Patriot Act in regard to domestic terrorism, the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crime Prevention Act, as well as several statutes and an executive order to enforce all applicable federal laws. In this letter, they cite 5 states claiming their school board meetings have been disrupted. Every one of them has been taken offline. In my research, I found a small group of people who acted inappropriately at school board meetings, with one man arrested. By the way, his daughter was raped. I do not see a mass crime wave like we have seen with Black Lives Matter or Antifa riots. People, please listen to me. School board meetings are not a place for violence. We can be enthusiastic about concerns that we should be. Our children should see this. This board is dedicated to our children's education. Can we afford to disrupt that with inappropriate words and actions? No. Just a note of interest, foul language and inappropriate slang were not intended by our founding fathers to be protected by the First Amendment. Expressing displeasure, I do that once in a while. Praise, I do that a lot, to elected officials is protected. On October 5th, at this meeting, the Kindergarten Learning Center presented the character word of the month, self-control. They did a great job. If you're here, I'm sure you agree with me. There is someone else who gives us a definition of self-control, and he does it in Galatians chapter 5, 22, verses 22 and 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things, there is no law. Thank you for listening to me again.
Thank you. Jeremy, is it Daughtry?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir. Just if you please come up and state your name, and like with Mr. Oakfield, you have 5 minutes. Maybe.
I'm running my.
23.
She knows me real good, so I get an extra 10.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
My name is, good evening, Board, Superintendent, Dr. Brendan Longshore. My name is Jeremy Daughtry. I am here tonight in support of Chris Doty. Let me say this. We're all in trouble when people go looking for things. Each of you are guilty of hugging people, telling work-related situations to others, laughing about things said or done by students and parents. The only difference between y'all and Mr. Doty is people aren't looking for things on you. What did you expect was going to happen? You sent Mr. Doty to an underperforming school with many, many issues, to include staff concerns, student behavior, academic performance, and school culture and reputation. Was Miss Lillipop happy that Mr. Doty was there? No, she was not. In February of this year, both her husband and her expressed this to me, as I am her neighbor, living right next door. Mr. Doty was clearly in trouble from day one. Based on what I know, why? Because we're all in trouble when people go looking for things. I read the report and have got to say I was shocked at the lack of actual evidence in the report. For instance, a third employee reported Mr. Doty regularly made sexual comments and jokes that she found inappropriate, but could not provide any examples. If these were so inappropriate, why can no one remember them? People warned not to be alone with Mr. Doty. Who are these people? Why wasn't this verified? I would imagine hundreds can attest to the exact opposite. An employee alleges that she has heard several rumors about Mr. Doty having sexual relations with teachers, but had no specific examples. So now rumors is fact, and a man has lost his job because of rumors and things said that no one can remember. As a parent, I'm disgusted by the lack of care you have given in this situation. A man's career has been shattered, and when I read the report, it shows a one-sided, non-impartial investigation. An employee talks about Mr. Doty by hiking his shorts up so his pants were tied around his groin. On the report, it states it was done in humor. Again, we're all in trouble when people go looking for things. So do you mean to tell me that women don't wear tight pants around their groin? So tight even that their groins are on display for all to see. I have personally seen hundreds of teachers and staff in this school system dressed just as I described. As for the humor, all of you sitting up here have made fun, laughed at, or joked about experience in your years teaching or whatever. With parents, to say you have not is simply not true. In closing, I support Mr. Doty and demand a call to action by this school board to further investigate due process on this matter. One last question. Why is there no written response from Mr. Doty? Has he not submitted anything in defense of these allegations?
Thank you. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I was told that Bassetti's would like to come up together, or do you want to come up, Melanie? Then, I'm okay with that, yes, ma'am. Dennis, did you want to come up also, or are you going to? Okay.
I'll speak for both of us. And
Okay.
Thank you very much, distinguished members of the board. Dr. Longshore, good evening. I was going to say good afternoon, but good evening. My name is Melanie Bassetti. My husband and I are stakeholders in the issue regarding the removal of Mr. Chris Doty, as we have a son in 8th grade at Avon Park Middle School. I appreciate this opportunity to be able to tell you how deeply disappointed and stunned, actually, we are, at the way in which accusations against Mr. Doty have been handled. Our son first entered APMS in 7th grade, and halfway through the year, Mr. Doty was reassigned by the superintendent to be basically a no-nonsense fixer at the school because of lagging student performance, behavioral issues, and staff morale. I believe everyone is fully aware that APMS has needed help for some time, and utilizing somebody with a track record like his was the answer. And by the way, I have no doubt that he was perfectly content where he was and only went to APMS at the behest of the superintendent. Even so, once he got there, he became very clearly committed to improving our school. It was a huge boost for us to have him. In his first meeting with parents shortly after he arrived, he laid out an improvement plan that was clear, showed candor, was positive, and showed pride for our school, which was greatly lacking. He was not afraid or embarrassed to discuss the shortcomings of the school because there were many. Unfortunately, when he arrived at APMS, he inadvertently stepped into a landmine. One needs to imagine what it would be like for a person who all along wanted this principalship and applied for it but did not get it, only to end up as a subordinate to someone like Mr. Doty, a confident, strong, proven leader with new ideas that differed from the status quo at APMS. But was that not precisely why he was handpicked for the job? Mr. Doty was not sent to APMS to continue with more of the same that had been going on. Success sometimes requires changing the intrinsic culture and having to tell people that their way is simply not working. There may be hurt feelings or resentment and even bitterness. He was not there to debate or meekly explain himself. He was put there because the school needed a leader who was effective, clear, and decisive, and who had a history of success. I can tell you the positive changes at the school were immediate. He was very visible on campus. He made it a point to get to know the students, interact with them, and his commitment was almost palpable. I tell you. He tackled bullying problems head-on and successfully, and my son was the beneficiary of Mr. Doty's ability to relate to middle schoolers in a way that frankly not all adults are able, even if some of us think we are. Not everybody has that talent. He also addressed what might be seemingly mundane issues to some, such as the previously lax dress code enforcement, as well as chronic tardiness problems, and he was even criticized for that, when the truth is that they do play a part in improving discipline and in academic gains. I recall a post on his Facebook page at the end of August, very recently, in which he wrote, quote, "Please post and share. Some amazing things are happening at APMS." And he mentioned he was looking for an additional English teacher. This happy cheer for the improvements he was leading at the school was shared by about 40 people, including the superintendent and my own son's 7th grade English teacher from last year. By the time of that post, I was well aware that he had also recruited several teachers from Hillgustat who respected him and his leadership qualities enough to leave their own established comfort zones and come to Avon Park Middle. It is our understanding that a list of complaints about Mr. Doty going back to the very beginning of his tenure at APMS was presented to the school board just a few weeks ago, and this is what started the investigation which ultimately got him removed from our school. But did anybody ever attempt to correct in real time any behavior they perceived as inappropriate? Why did the aggrieved party in a leadership position herself, who was purportedly so offended by Mr. Doty, not immediately report him to HR? So let me ask again, if she was so upset, why did she not report him from day one, or from month one, or from February 25th, when the official report states the first documented inappropriate behavior? I think I know the answer to that, and I believe this is an orchestrated hatchet job in order to remove him from the picture, and I believe that was the intent all along. The superintendent stated that she made her decision to remove Mr. Doty based on the recommendation of the investigator. There was one investigator, female. The accusers are female, and the superintendent with the final word who removed him is female. Mr. Doty did not have the benefit of both a female and a male investigator. Further, numerous female colleagues of his who fully support him and who have worked side by side with him for years and who have never experienced any negative issues with him whatsoever were not part of this investigation despite having requested to be included. Why are they not included? Where was Mr. Doty's due process? The evidence was presented by one side, and where was his full side? If you have the right to do an investigation, where are his rights? It took less than 2 weeks to destroy a person's almost 30-year career because of a resentful party who began a campaign of subterfuge lasting 8 months and who had the intent of assassinating his character in an attempt to get rid of him, which patently worked. This could have all been nipped in the bud on February 25th had she gone immediately to HR. Or did she simply need more time to build the case she wanted? Mr. Doty is a talented and dedicated leader who needs to remain in a leadership position where he can provide the students of Highlands County a greater service. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, we appreciate it. Nicole, thank you. Okay. Nicole? Oh, Paul. You please state your name, and once again, you have 5 minutes.
I'll
Thank
be
you.
less. Nicole Radomski, thank you, guys. Today, I'm standing before you to share stories of truth about a man whom I have known for 25 years and has had a positive impact on many. When I was a junior in high school, Mr. Chris Doty began helping our co-ed cheerleading team, mainly to support us in health and fitness and weightlifting. I soon decided to take up weightlifting as a sport, although I know I don't look much like a weightlifter, where he became my weightlifting coach, along with a handful of other girls and boys. During that time, he was a mentor, someone I trusted completely. He was the kind of person that knew how to build positive connections with others. You just knew that he was a good guy and you wanted to be around him. At no time did I ever feel uncomfortable or unsafe around him. It was actually quite the opposite. When he was around, you felt very safe and supported. I worked for this district for about 17 years. When I was ready to make a change from teaching elementary school to becoming a middle school teacher, Mr. Doty took me in again and began mentoring me. He was encouraging, patient, funny, supportive, but he also gave me constructive criticism when needed. You see, Mr. Doty is passionate about growing amazing educators and leaders in public education, especially right here in Highlands County. He understands the role of an administrator and that sometimes that means having conversations with his staff about areas of growth in order to help them to improve. At no time did I ever feel intimidated or bullied by him. In fact, I valued and respected his words and looked forward to growing from a second grade teacher into an effective middle school teacher. I worked for Mr. Doty for about 7 years. I can truly say that it was an honor and an absolute pleasure to learn from him. I have watched Mr. Doty take kids under his wing, find ways to make personal connections with them so that they know that he truly cares. I have watched him reach out to dermatologists to ask for help with a student who was struggling with a skin condition. I have witnessed him offer to pay for things when students couldn't afford to go places or practice or participate in certain things. The stories that I can tell you are endless. He would never want others to know things like this about him because this is the kind of man and leader that he is. He truly cares for the well-being and success of every child. That shows in the fact that he was voted as the champion for children by our county in 2017. He understands that in order to positively affect the lives of students on a campus, you must have a faculty and staff that have a clear direction and purpose. Does he run a tight ship? Absolutely. Does he hold you accountable if you do something wrong? Absolutely. Does he make decisions for the good of the students that sometimes the faculty and staff may not always understand or agree with? Absolutely. But it is always for the good of the students. During the entire time I was working for Mr. Doty, almost any ideas I would throw at him, his response would always be that if it's best for the kids, then we will make it work. When it was time for me to leave this county as an educator, I had the difficult conversation with Mr. Doty that I did not think I would be returning the next year. I knew I needed a change, just wasn't sure exactly what that would look like. He was 100% supportive. He told me that I always had to do what is best for me and for my family. Mr. Doty holds his faculty, staff, and students to high expectations and holds them accountable. Why? Because he believes that every single person is destined for some kind of greatness in life, but it just won't be handed to you. We all know that he has been viewed as a fixer of schools. We have seen him moved from campus to campus and is willing to put in the work in order to restore the greatness that can be found on each campus. It is there, you just have to have the right person to bring it out. And clearly, Mr. Doty has been that person for years. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been sent all over this county to do just that. These words can't even begin to fully illustrate the impact he has had on my life and the lives of literally thousands of others in our community and beyond. So today, I am calling on each one of you to do what is right and make sure that things are investigated fully. A man who has worked in this county for 29 years gets a 2-day investigation over allegations made of incidences occurring over the last few months. How does that even make sense? He has done everything you have asked of him, traveled from school to school, and now this. You have a duty, you have an obligation to this community, to the students and the staff he has positively impacted, and more importantly, to those whom I believe are still yet to come. Again, please do what is right. It may not be what is easy, but do what is right.
Thank you. Next, we have Elizabeth, and I'm not sure the last name. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Elizabeth Montalvo, and I'm the mother of Arieli Montalvo and Adi Montalvo, who both attended and currently attend schools here in Highlands County. I moved from Tampa 9 years ago due to a divorce. My daughter Adieli started 4th grade in the middle of her school year at Lake Placid Elementary and later transitioned to Lake Placid Middle School, which is where we met Chris Doty in Adieli's 7th grade year. Because Adieli was the new kid on the block, she had a hard time fitting in with girls and had a situation which involved several girls cyberbullying her. I immediately took the situation to the school where I met Chris for the first time and was alone in an office with him. Chris was very professional, yet warm and understanding, and even a jokester at times. I told Chris that it was just myself and Adieli and her brother, and that it was hard raising them on my own. As the school year progressed, Chris took Adieli under her wing, and oftentimes Adieli would come home and tell me that she had gone to him for advice. I knew this because if anyone knows my daughter, you know that she is very vocal and outgoing. Adieli would oftentimes come home and tell me that she had talked to Chris about certain things, and it warmed my heart that there was a male figure in her life, even if it was only at the school level. Because the children's father was not in the picture, my youngest, Adi, struggled with not having his father in his life. He struggled in school, and because he was not as articulate as his sister, had a hard time verbalizing his frustration and oftentimes acted out. I remember on one occasion reaching out to Chris again, asking if I could sit down with him and get his advice on what to do. Again, we were alone in his office, and never once did he say or make me feel uncomfortable knowing I was a young, single, vulnerable mom. Now, there's always the possibility, like someone said, maybe he wasn't attracted to you. That is possible, and you'll see where I'm going with this. As the years progressed, Adieli really blossomed at Lake Placid Middle School with the help of some pretty amazing teachers and Principal Doty. When Adieli entered high school at Sebring High, Chris continued to stay in Adieli's life by taking her out to Saturday morning breakfast at Deezer IHOP, alone. Never once did I feel uncomfortable with the situation, and never once did Adieli come to me telling me she was uncomfortable. Chris and I would talk over the phone at times on how to guide and help Adieli, given that she is an overachiever and was often very hard on herself. Never once did I get a text message or anything inappropriate from him. Adieli always commented on how much she enjoyed breakfast with Chris, and now that she is at college, how she would miss those breakfasts. Over the years, I have come to know Chris intimately, and to truly know him is to love him. If you know him well enough, you know that he is a jokester and funny, but also serious when it comes to things that are important. He calls things like he sees them and does not sugarcoat the truth. If you are doing something that you shouldn't be doing, he will tell you. When I first heard that Chris was transferred from Hillgustat to Avon Park Middle School last year, I was a little worried because, as everyone knows, Avon Park Middle School ranks very low in Highlands County. I researched it today, and it actually ranks in the bottom 50% in Florida, with a reading proficiency of 37% and math at 42% of the bottom 50%. I knew that considering it was predominantly a minority school, he would have a hard time helping out. As I'm sure everyone already knows, the school has had a hard time keeping their staff and principals for that matter. I, however, did not think that it would come to this. I read the report from Ms. Karen S. Marlowe, and I am shocked that the school board did not use more than one investigator and was quick to remove Mr. Doty so hastily, given that at the moment, everything I've read thus far is complete hearsay. There are no emails, texts, or video footage corroborating these allegations. My opinion on this matter is this. You sent Chris in to clean up the school, and he ruffled some feathers, if I know him well enough. You have an assistant principal, from what I've heard, has been passed up twice for the principal position. I could be wrong. Anyone who knows Avon Park Middle School knows that it is a very hard school to teach at, mainly because of the demographics, socioeconomic status of the community, and lack of parental support. If anyone or anything should be investigated, it should be Avon Park Middle School as a whole. Ask yourself this: why is it that you cannot get this school up to par? Why is it that those kids are failing? Why does this school struggle so much? Why is it that these allegations are suddenly coming up? To my knowledge, there has never been any allegations from him working at Lake Placid Middle, Hillgustat, or any other school he has worked at over the last 30 years. Then all of a sudden, he gets transferred to Avon Park Middle School, and all of a sudden he is sexually harassing 8 female employees at Avon Park Middle School with no other witnesses besides themselves. It is my personal belief that you hire 2 more investigators to corroborate Ms. Marlowe's report and then make your final decision. I'm out of time, so I had more, but thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have Stacy Hinson. Yes, ma'am. Are you Stacy? Do you want to come up now, or do you want
No,
to?
she's gonna give her rest of the time.
Okay.
Finish.
Right. Okay, so also, I would like to know why Assistant Principal Miss Lilpop posted a picture of herself laying down in her office at Avon Park Middle School and posted it on Facebook. Was she working? Because if she was, I believe that should be investigated, as taxpayer money is paying her salary, and I'm sure that is not part of her job description. If Mr. Doty is being investigated for very serious accusations, then so should the accusers and their motivations. In conclusion, I would like to say that one of the main reasons I moved from Tampa to Highlands was because I myself moved here when I was 10 years old and went to Lake Placid Middle and Lake Placid High. So did my other 5 siblings. We all graduated here. I'm sure we gave some of the teachers here a run for their money. I see Mr. Verity, and I know we had my brothers and sisters here. I remember the small hometown feel I had going to school here and the stability it offered. I remember everyone knew everyone, and I missed that living in Tampa. I wanted my kids to grow up with the same thing. I am proud I moved back home to raise my kids here. I am proud that Chris Doty helped me with Adieli when he did, and he has continued to stay in our lives. Adieli graduated at the top of her class and is now a sophomore junior at FGCU as a forensic science major. Adi is in 8th grade at Sebring Middle in advanced classes and is on his way like his sister. He too adores Chris and always wanted to go to Hillgustat just to be close to him. Much to his dismay, we were zoned for Sebring Middle. Whatever the outcome of this meeting, my family and I stand by Chris Doty, and I implore you to continue your investigation into the problems at Avon Park Middle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Stacy Henson. I'm not going to reiterate what you've heard already. I do have some concerns. I feel like the integrity in the investigation process was not followed. Those involved or responsible must be completely impartial, knowledgeable, and professionally qualified. Did we have that? The integrity of the complainant in supporting witnesses. Did we examine the history and their motives? The integrity of the release of the information, the findings, the judgment before the entire investigative process is complete, including all entities involved in the decision-making. The rules and steps in any investigative legal process is crucial and must be thoroughly followed and examined. We have a man's career that's at stake here, his reputation in the district. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You have Maureen Cool? You were hiding. I couldn't see you. Please come on up, and like everyone else, you have 5 minutes. Okay.
Hi, I'm Maureen Cool, and I have known Chris Doty for a long time, and I read the report, and what I read is not a side of Chris Doty I know. I don't believe a word of it. He's a good friend. He's my neighbor at the beach, which in the report it mentioned the beach in there, that he wanted to bring a young lady over to the beach. I seriously doubt that Chris Doty would do that with me 2 doors down on a weekend. So, I just think it needs to be looked into a little bit more. I think it's going to be a great loss for Highlands County School Board and for the school system to lose him for the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean Coons, sorry. And like everyone else, you have 5 minutes, please.
And thank you for letting me come up here on the last minute.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay,
That's what
my
we're here
name's
for.
Sean Coons, and I'm one of the casualties of Mr. Doty. Basically, what happened was that I had applied for time off to take my wife to the hospital. His answer to that was, no, you can't go. So what I did is I went ahead and I talked to my union rep at the school. And what we found out was that if I had time off, I was allowed to have that day off. And the only reason why we were having an issue with it, it was because it was during the diagnostic test time. Well, he said everybody had to be there and that my wife and I should reschedule her procedure. And that's when I told him no. And I said, I don't care what you do to me, I'm taking that day off whether you want me to or not. And so because of me going to the union, he retaliated. From that point on, he started looking for ways to have me removed from the school. And what he did was, during the second diagnostic test we had, I sent him and Miss Lilpop an email telling of the students who put their head down and wouldn't take the test. And, you know, there were two of us in the room, myself and Mr. Collier. And we were going around, all period long, and trying to get these people to, you know, sit up and take the test. So with about 10 minutes left, I went ahead and emailed both of them saying that these are the names of the people, thinking I was doing the right thing by sending the names, because in years past, the protocol was last 10 minutes or thereabouts, send the names of the students down that were not doing what they were supposed to do, or they put their head down and they would take them out of their extracurricular activity or gym class or whatever, something that they like to do, and they would make them take the test then. And they did that. Now, beyond that, you guys can think what you want. I don't think Chris is as squeaky clean as you say he is. I can see how he would be, or he would do those things that he's being accused of. So now, the other thing is that our school, Avon Park Middle School, that I taught at for 15 years, when I first showed up, we were a B school. And it gradually went down to a C school. And the issues that were at hand, yes, teachers were leaving left and right. Administrators were leaving left and right. Why? I don't know. Maybe they got tired, or they weren't able to handle, not so much the teachers, but the administrators. Or the administrators. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. My point is that Chris is not, like I said, what you say he is. I hope you stick with the findings that you have. I think it is a valid way to find out if somebody has done something inappropriate. And you guys keep saying that, is it fair that somebody had only 2 days of an investigation and then he lost his job? I say, no, it's not fair, but I was that person too. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to the superintendent's report.
Just a few things for tonight. I'd like to request permission to schedule a workshop to review and discuss the school board clinic on November 19th. You can check your calendars to see if you're available on November 19th from 9 to 10:30.
Who's going to be presenting at that workshop?
Mr. Lethbridge, do you have the different individuals that will be at that workshop?
Andrew Lethbridge, Deputy Superintendent. Kathy Gordon and Teresa Conley from Cyber Consulting would be helping present, specifically looking at options that we'd have on the table as far as the clinic and different ideas, different concepts. Really refreshing as far as there's different models that we could move forward with the clinic if we're moving away from our current structure. So really talking through different models and different options that we have at this point. If there's anything else that the board would want us to explore, we could definitely do so as well and just be prepared for that.
Will the clinic itself be here to speak?
What is the pleasure of the board for that?
Well, if so, I would like the other clinic to have a chance that's kind of reached out to you, be able to have a chance to do a presentation also.
Okay.
I agree.
So the pleasure of the board for, because where this would not be a RFP. This is not like an invitation to bid.
Just to
If we
look at
want,
what-
we could keep both our clinic out and all clinics and have the consultant go over.
I want to know what another clinic could offer. It's same as
Well-
our clinic offering something.
And maybe that would be another workshop if we.
Yeah, separate workshop, the
Yeah,
nurse
if we,
workshop.
if this is,
No.
I don't know why it would hurt to have it at that one. I really don't.
I don't mind that if we want to invite them. It's just the conflict in my mind as far as that we're not looking for them to bid at
No,
this
I
point, and
realize
it
that.
almost delves into a bidding environment of what can I do to offer, or what would this look like? As far as the consultants, I see them as non-partial, that they wouldn't, they'll give their advice, but they don't have skin in the game as far as, but they could weigh out the pros and cons. I'm not against it, that's just my only hesitation as far as that I see.
I mean, I think we've already actually heard Cyber's recommendation. I mean, I have as a board member, I don't know if y'all have, but I'm just saying there's concerns that we brought to the clinic. There's some things in the contract. So I'm just saying, if we're not gonna adhere to the contract they have, I'd like to hear, what they offer there, and then, I don't, so.
So do you want to do all that in one, or do you want to do that in two separate workshops? What's your preference?
well, how long will the,
Well, I was-
Friday the
I mean,
19th,
I'm wondering if they
right?
could come in like an hour later or 30 minutes
Yeah,
later.
yeah,
I
can we have
mean,
two
that's
meetings
fine.
back to back, kind of?
Yeah.
Is that
That's fine,
possible?
that's
So where they're not
Yeah.
like all
That's fine, yeah.
confusing the situation,
Yeah.
And not
possibly.
That would
wasting
be
everyone's
fine.
time.
So do a 9 to 10:30. I was going to request another workshop with our portables and possible future construction from 10:30 till noon, but we'll push that, and we'll go ahead and do the second workshop with the clinic and the other from
So-
10:30 till noon. And what will we be workshopping in that second?
If there are more than those two options, are you looking to have
Yeah.
other people come in?
We almost need to do an RFP at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tell them what we want, not what obviously, if they can meet our RFP and then offer additional things during that,
Which RFP are you talking about?
If we have
There
more
is
than
no
one.
RFP.
Well, no, if
person
we do,
present.
but to get people to come in here and say, okay, what can you do for us? Without actually
I
itemizing.
had shared some things that they're in the contract that they're not adhering to. So I, as a board member, am not gonna continue to allow this clinic.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
Mr. Brantley just mentioned RFP, and I
Well,
was
no,
unaware of one
eventually,
being.
we're gonna go to RFP. as
Future
far as-
RFP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
So we're gonna have one other clinic present, or are we gonna have more than one? I guess that's,
Well, I'll say this to you, you're not gonna be able to have one present one time and one at another without the other one watching. It's a public meeting, so, I just want to clear up any misconception about.
No,
if
no,
you
I
want
was
to.
fine with both of them being
Sure.
here.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
but what if another person would want to present? I mean,
Another
I guess that's
clinic.
where we're trying to, that's the slope that we're talking about, I think.
I
What
guess that
happens
would
next
give, that
if
would
more
give
than
me as a
one?
board member, maybe to realize what we want to put out in an RFP, or kind of
Well,
give
can
us,
I-
yeah, maybe you make
If I
some
could say this,
suggestions.
I do. This is new to me, honestly, first impression. I didn't know we had somebody else knocking on the door. People don't talk to me about things like that.
No, I don't know why they don't talk to you.
But I would say this about that. If you are unhappy with our current provider and you want to say, this is in the contract, why aren't you doing that? And let's get through those types of things, I think that's fair game. I don't think it's appropriate to have a competitor come in here and say, gee, I'd like to talk to you about what I'd like to do too, because as stated, until you have an RFP on the street and people are submitting and we want to hear what you can do, who has interest, who has not. I just think it's very inappropriate to have somebody in here that has expressed interest if there is a future opportunity that is not responding to an RFP, that's a public opportunity for everybody to be on the same page. Like I said, I got no problem to bring the others in that are awarded now and say, okay, let's hear from you. This is my dissatisfaction. I'm concerned about this, I'm concerned about that. We're gonna have to fix this. Or if you can't fix it, we're gonna put a new RFP out. Fine.
Yeah, and that is what I've attempted to do. I haven't gotten there, so
Okay.
Yeah,
But
and
I just caution you
Yeah.
about bringing people in that
No, I
that,
understand what you're
you know,
saying,
sure.
yeah, but
I
I'm
do
just saying,
too.
we've got a contract
Okay.
out here they've not been adhering to. If you want to adhere to it,
Right,
then, you know.
yes, ma'am.
For this workshop specifically, I was going to ask Cyber, and we've been working already, but we have the model currently right now with the clinic, and that is a hybrid model, that they have a school board side, but they also have a public side for that clinic. It was kind of unique when we ended up going through the bidding process. There are some school boards that have just a clinic that is solely school board. It's not shared with anything public. So that's another option that we end up having. So it's going to have them go through and share different pros and cons on that, and then also end up looking at a hospital model and sharing different pros and cons. And it's really for the consultants to break down different options that we have, and then go over some of the lessons learned that we've had thus far with the clinic. We know more now than we did when we would have started with the clinic originally. And then we can just make informed decisions, at that point too. An important piece of this is the negotiations, as far as this is definitely part of wage and benefits. So we have that we can't do in isolation outside of the insurance as well for the insurance committee. But the fact of making this decision, okay, no, we want to go out for an RFP. I think we need to look at, one, the options first, what are out there, and then make decisions. Do we want to make demands on the clinic currently and say, listen, these are things that must be improved, and here's X amount of days to improve them. Or if we want to say, just to let them know, we're moving forward with a RFP, you're welcome to bid on it. So there's different options, different steps that we can end up taking. Just want us to make informed decisions at that point. But then definitely involve the union with the insurance committee as well, because they will be important partners in this.
If we could also get cyber, I guess after this decision was made, it was brought to me, and I don't know if it was brought to any of the other board members, but the county was actually wanted to partner with us on this, and we're not, the conversation just got stopped. So that's something I'd even like to ask cyber.
Sure.
Okay, if we partner with the county, the sheriff's department, if they were interested, how would that benefit us to even consider something like that? you
Sure.
know? So,
Yeah, I can definitely share that, and they can embed that too, because it's a great, if we partner with other entities, possibly we can
Yeah.
provide more services and still not have it open to the public, but just for the entities involved.
Work with
So
greater
that-
number of people.
So a deep dive just in this one, using the consultant and figuring out what we can do better, and if not, then we make a decision. Talk about making a decision.
So do you think an hour and a half will be a sufficient amount of time for that, or do we need to extend that?
I'm guessing, just what I'm hearing, at least 2 hours is what I'm guessing.
Okay, so we'll set that up from 9 to 11 then? I would also like to request permission to schedule a workshop to review and discuss portables and possible future construction. Now, will the board want to do both of those workshops in the same day, or do you feel like that you would like those separated on a different day?
Okay. And then I was told you're going to be meeting with I know one person, I had never given you the other name.
Next week.
And that's the
is
only
what we're trying
thing
to
is,
set.
I wouldn't mind hearing their presentations. So I don't know how you're, gonna, if you're just gonna hear it and,
Mr. Lethbridge and Mr. Averett, Mr. Brown and myself will sit down with those individuals, but why don't we just wait to schedule that workshop after that meeting, and then we can move forward with
and
a
we
workshop
would
after
be
that.
able to get a chance to also
Sure.
hear presentations of other options that might be out there. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
Okay, all right, let's postpone that then.
So we're
until-
just going to stick with the one?
Just the one.
Okay.
Also like to request to add an emergency item to consider approval of the credit line renewal with Heartland National Bank and authorizing resolution 2122-09. And we will not need an executive session tonight.
Okay.
That's it, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. We'll move on, looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as revised.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Howerton and a second by Mr. Durrance. Is there any public comment? Back to the board, any comment? We will do roll call. Ms. Howerton?
Yes.
Mr. Durrance?
Yes.
Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Moving on to number 9, looking for a motion to approve the consent items as presented.
Motion to approve?
A second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Brantley and a second by Mr. Durrance. Is there any public comment? Back to the board. Roll call. Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
Mr. Durrance?
Yes.
Ms. Howerton?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Action items, 10A, consider approval of resolution 2122-08, authorizing joiner action into anti-vaping class litigation.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Howerton and a second by Mr. Durrance. Is there any public comment? Back to the board. I would just like to say appreciate him coming down from the Orlando area and giving that presentation. And we will move for roll call. Ms. Howerton?
Yes.
Mr. Durrance?
Yes.
Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. 10B, consider approval of superintendent's recommendation for personnel.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Brantley and a second by Mr. Durrance. Is there any public comment? Back to the board. Roll call. Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
Mr. Durrance?
Yes.
Ms. Howerton?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. 10C, consider approval of expulsions.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Brantley and a second by Ms. Howerton. We will now do roll call. Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
Ms. Howerton?
Yes.
Mr. Durrance?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. 10D, consider approval of 2022 through 2023 school calendar.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Durrance and a second by Ms. Howerton. Is there any public comment? Back to the board. I just would like to thank the calendar committee. I know it's always
Went really
digging
good
into
this year.
everything, yeah. So, thank you to everyone.
Dr. Lethbridge did a good job. At Andrew.
Roll call. Mr. Durrance?
Yes.
Ms. Howerton?
Yes.
Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. 10E is consider school board member appointment, 1 member and 1 alternate, and 1 business representative to the Value Adjustment Board.
Who was the alternate, Mrs. Welborn? Refresh my memory.
I think it,
I thought it
I
was-
said you were, I was,
I
Yeah,
think,
wasn't
I
it-
think it
wasn't
is.
it
Yeah, I think
it was
because you were
Janet
going to be.
You had to
Yeah.
fill in for me one time,
Okay.
so I was the board, the member, and then you were the alternate. I'm fine if you want to stay that way or switch, or. And then Compton Realty was the business representative.
That's fine.
Do you want to be the member, or you want to be the alternate? Because I'm fine either way. It's-
Okay, I'll switch with you.
Okay, okay.
Unless someone, it's fine.
We need a motion to nominate Ms. Howard. Ms.
Motion
Howerton?
to approve, which I'll just discuss. So-
Which would
Miss-
be-
So Donna would be
The member.
the member, and then
I would be
Jan
the
would be the
alternate.
alternate, and then Compton Realty would be the business.
Okay, so that's your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I will second that.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Durrance and a second by Mr. Brantley. Is there any public comment? If you could follow what we were saying. Back to the board, any comment? We will do roll call. Mr. Durrance?
Yes.
Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
Ms. Howerton?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. 12A is consider approval of agreement between School Board of Highlands County and Carnegie Learning.
I'd just like to, I met with Dr. Campbell and Principal Ramey, along with Mrs. Portis, and had a very good meeting. Leaving there, I want to realize that when I'm here voting, I'm voting on the county as a whole. So just trying to understand it. I did make some phone calls afterwards. The only thing that I had hoped in that process that all of our math coaches would have been brought together and discuss this. I did find that they would be able to come and share in that, and this is going to be through a grant. I think it's a great opportunity. It was actually shared from one of the math coaches that it might even benefit Avon Park Middle. So that was my dilemma, is I want you to realize that when I'm voting here as a county as a whole. So right now, this is going to be offered to Hillgustat Middle, and Sebring Middle, Lake Placid Middle, and Avon Park Middle, their coaches can go over and then bring back. But you know what? If there's enough money and we have another school that needs this, I'm good that we also make that available to other schools as a whole. So, I mean, I don't know what the dollar amount that we have with that grant, if there's enough, but I just want to do what's going to benefit all of our students in Highlands County.
One, they also said if by chance the math teachers could not come, they could do it with Zoom or Google or however, whatever is the new one now. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So they could definitely, if they couldn't travel, then they could still participate in the.
Yeah, so that would be my only thing, if I was going to make a motion to amend that, if the dollars are there, we benefit. I mean, I think there's some veteran teachers at Avon Park Middle, my understanding, along with the veteran teachers at Hillgustat. So.
When I met with them, Avon Park Middle was always part of the discussion.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
I called another school and two coaches that were not aware, so.
Okay. Well, when I met with them I was actually at Hillgustat, and they did mention Avon Park Middle School as part of it.
Be coming down the pipe still, right?
Pardon me?
Possibly coming down the pipe. That they
Right,
haven't
no,
got a
well,
wind of
I
it
think
quite yet,
starting.
possibly. Yeah.
Is that correct, Ms. Portis? Or would anybody like to say anything about it?
Dr. Campbell.
Dr. Campbell, oh,
Leader
she's
on that,
hiding
yeah.
back there. You were hiding. Smart lady.
Dr. Campbell, Assistant Superintendent for Secondary. So Mrs. Remy, coming from her previous district, has worked with Carnegie. And so we said that we are willing to share, but here's the thing. It's not approved. So what we don't want to do is say, hey, here's this thing, when it's like we don't want to put the cart before the horse and say, yes, do you want to do this thing? And then that kind of buzz goes around, and then it becomes, but you didn't talk to us about it first. So what we did say is that it will be available to other coaches to come, and it's like a train the trainer, so that the work that's done at Hillgustat Middle is also spread amongst the district. We also said that, I think it was Mrs. Howerton, said, well, what if other schools wanted this? And I said, at this point, I don't know that the other schools will know to ask about this thing, but surely, if it came to where it's something where, I want this as well, we would definitely get back with Mrs. Rivers and grants and federal programs to do the same thing for other sites. It's almost like you don't know what you don't know in this situation.
Yeah, no, I wasn't aware at our meeting that other schools weren't aware, until I got to and see, and that's just it. I met, and sometimes I then go and speak to kind of those that are kind of out there in the trenches just to see, like I called Mrs. Portis. And I think it's wonderful, that's what I'm just saying, because these people are going to come and work with the teachers along with the coach. But in this instance, it'll only be at Hillgustat Middle.
Agreed. And you had asked if you went to other schools, would they know? And we did. I do remember saying, no, they wouldn't yet, because we didn't want to, we will offer it, but we didn't want to put the cart before the horse to say, hey, we got this great thing, do you want to do it? But we're not even sure that we'll be able to do it. So we wanted to make sure we went through the approval process first, but we would also share. Now, I remember Mrs. Portis saying, well, she has a great rapport with all of the middle school coaches, some of them being newer, and that she would absolutely share craft and invite them as well.
But if other schools did say, hey, I want to be part of that and have them
Then
at our
we
school,
absolutely
then we can
would go back.
I'm going to make a motion, but I would like to,
If it's something the others.
that they want to do.
interested.
So we're not saying, you know,
You
it's
have
not,
to
we're
do
not
this.
pushing saying you have to do this
Right.
thing, because if you don't want to,
Right.
you don't necessarily have to. I know that this school wants to because they came out and met with the school. So they want it. And again, it's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know. But when you learn about it and you do want it, then we would absolutely make that adjustment.
And with them being able to share the practice at your school, then they would discover more about it, so that.
At that point.
So if it's something they wanted to engage in, we could put that in motion.
We absolutely can.
So my motion would be to include, we would do Hillcrest at middle. But if our other coaches realize something, I would like to expand it
For the other schools.
for the other schools.
And I'll second that.
Okay, so that's your motion. And then, thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Howerton and a second by Mr. Durrance. Is there any public comment? Any more public comment? No? Back to the board?
Just appreciate the opportunity to focus on math.
Yes.
I know, you know, readings a lot of times it should be the focus, and it is the focus, and it's been the focus. But you can improve your scores as a district with math. Sometimes faster than reading because, you know, you can fill those gaps and you can grow that practice a lot even faster. So I'm excited about this opportunity, and I hope it works out really well and keep on growing.
Well, and the fact that Ms. Ramey also had worked with them in previous schools and definitely was endorsing it, I think that's very good. Any other comments? We will do roll call. Ms. Howerton?
Yes.
Mr. Durrance?
Yes.
Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. We have the emergency item, number 16, consider approval of credit line renewal with Heartland National Bank and authorizing resolution 2122-09.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Ms. Howerton and a second by Mr. Brantley. Is there any public comment? Back to the board? No? Appreciate Marlene letting us know that we were adding that today.
I would note the basis for the emergency for the record too. And it's simply this, that I think what happened was, we do this every year. And this year, it kind of fell through the cracks for whatever reason. And I noted it wasn't on the agenda. The bank had worked everything up. I had a couple of corrective matters and we cleaned up in that. The reason it's an emergency is because typically that the next 2 weeks is when we're running the very lowest on our money. So we need to have this in place just in case we do need the money. The other reason is this line of credit, if we let it expire, it costs a lot of money to renew it, and it takes time. So if something were to come up unexpectedly that the board didn't have funding for, we could draw on the line of credit without having to wait and the delay to be approved and all the extra money that goes along with that. So this is in place now, and as it should be, and we'll be able to have it if needed.
Very good. Thank you. So we will do roll call, and that was comments, correct? Ms. Howerton?
Yes.
Mr. Brantley?
Yes.
Mr. Durrance?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Moving on. Yes, ma'am?
I failed to ask about our reorganizational meeting on 11/16, to set the time. We had discussed 8 a.m. because that's also Ag Venture
Yes,
Day.
ma'am.
So is that the pleasure of the board to hold our reorganizational meeting at 8 a.m. on November 16th?
I vote for 7.
Yeah.
I can get to Ag Venture.
Early as possible.
As early as, can we do 7, well, it is 8.
Jan, I know Jan's up at 4, but no,
Yeah, I'm
just-
up,
we can do
so-
8, but I'm saying, yeah, just as early as we can do it, that's great.
Okay.
Would you like to do 7:30, which is the time we start?
That would be,
Well,
that
would
would
that
be a
give you
huge help.
time to get in and get situated?
I'll just have to spend the night. So,
It would work, I mean, if it would work with the rest of the board.
Yeah, that is Ag Venture, so I think
you
About
can work-
5 o'clock, so.
several of us.
Thank you.
Does that
Thank
work
you,
for you,
appreciate
Dr.
it.
Longshore?
Dr. Longshore's got to get there also.
Yeah.
8 a.m. so I could have your coffee ready.
Thank you.
So bring
Well, okay, okay.
This could be a game changer.
Exactly.
BYOC.
That's nothing we need to vote on, is it? It's just as long as we set that, okay. So that's the 16th at 7:30. Okay, okay. Moving on then, do we have any legislative issues? I don't believe so. Planning and zoning, HCEA, HCESPA member comments? You know what, there's so many people in the back, though, I haven't seen a lot of the people back there, so. Moving on, we have the school board attorney. I forgot what you were, school board attorney comments.
I wish I could. The only comments I have are, first of all, thank you for the dual litigation thing. I really think that's the right thing to do, and I thought the presentation was very good, and I think we're in good hands. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I would just say, too, we live in a great community here. We're very blessed. We're very lucky. I hear that all the time, and it's absolutely the truth. And it was brought home today by everybody participating. It was brought home by our kids, honoring our kids for perfect scores. And last week, too, our last meeting, we did the same thing for the upper grades. And it's just good to see kids around. I love it when the science fair comes and we present our winners with that. Unbelievable topics that come up. It's just amazing. So we don't take a backseat to anybody. It's the point I'm trying to make. It's a great community. Thank you. That's all I've got.
I think we all agree with you on that. Ms. Howerton?
Just want to thank everybody that came on behalf of the perfect scores at FSAA Spring Awards. It's very proud of our students, and just kudos to them, to our faculty, to our administration. And we're not allowed to say anything, but the only thing I want to say in future investigations, I'm just asking as a board member, the okay and how we send out something and the names that are included and how we send out something. I've still not had a chance to talk to Dr. Longshore, but I'm struggling there. So just wanted to share that. And I want to wish Mrs. Wellborn a happy birthday tomorrow.
Yes. All of us, all 39.
Brantley?
Same thing as far as great seeing the kids come out and get their awards. It's great seeing a lot of people here. Unfortunately, not for this circumstance as far as that goes. You're all welcome to come back any other time. And happy birthday, Ms. Wilburn.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Dirks?
Just want to thank everyone in the school system for keeping our doors open. I mean, I know, some feedback recently, different meetings that we were at, and just, how much of a struggle it's been the last couple of years. And, there's always a timeline of the school. Okay, start fresh, and then we go when we get through to Christmas. Oh, we made it. Then we kind of recover, and then it just, it kind of that same progression for years and years and years. But then now it just seems like, we're at Christmas now, and it's like, I just hope, I want to make it to the end of the year. And I know people have been balancing, and people have been out, and people have been in, and it's just, it's been a struggle. And I know I appreciate everybody's efforts for keeping our schools open, and that is extremely. I know everyone on this board feels that way, and everybody feels that way. And I just want to publicly say that because it's important that everybody know that we're thinking of everybody and all the efforts they're doing. That's it.
Well, ditto on what he said, and then also what everyone else said as far as the FSA recipients. It's always fun to see the child, but it's really fun to watch the parents. And then also, we do appreciate Mr. Mayor coming from Orlando and giving that. And I'd mentioned to Dr. Longshore last week, I was out of town. And while I'm here, I guess I don't really know people that do the vaping, but I was out of town, and there's a lot of vaping. A lot of vaping. Everywhere I looked, it was going on. So I think that's all a good thing. I appreciate Mr. McClure bringing that to our attention. And then also just want to thank everyone that came out tonight. Like someone said, you're welcome to come back to every meeting. We love it when people are here. And happy birthday, Marlene. If I thought it was appropriate, I'd say we should sing happy birthday to her, but we do appreciate you and everything that you do for us. And I believe at that point, we will call